That's a gain of 5 yards, which means first down for this podcast. Before we continue my first ever journey through the Harry Potter series, just a few quick announcements. First, in less than 2 weeks, I will be in Los Angeles with Multitude. We will be at Podcast Movement Evolutions. We will be doing a live show for Potterless and Horse on Friday the 14th. At the time of recording this, there is 1 ticket left. So if you want to go, hurry. And if we're sold out, I'm very sorry. Hopefully we'll come back to the area very soon. But if you want to see some other Multitude stuff that is going down while we're in LA, there's more than just the Potterless live show. There is so much happening. Check it all out at multitude.productions/live. Also, it is the first episode of Potterless in February, meaning it's donation time. Here at Potterless, every month we donate $1 for every member of our team over at patreon.com/Potterless to a different charity. At the time of recording, we have 879 patrons, meaning we'll be donating $879 to the Trevor Project. I wanted to choose this charity for January in light of JK's tweets that were happening at the time, but Australia happened and that was more pressing. So for February, I'm picking the Trevor Project. They do great work. They're the leading national organization that provides crisis intervention and suicide prevention services to LGBTQ youths under 25. They do so many different things. If you want to learn more about what they do, head on over to thetrevorproject.org. And thanks to Lotta Bartova, a producer-level patron, for the suggestion. Finally, I'll address this here, even though I said I wasn't going to talk about this anymore. More information came out about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation. Some audio was released making Amber Heard look even worse, and I'll just say I admit that I was wrong to jump on a situation with such a definitive stance before I knew all the information about it. But my instinct was to believe a woman that was standing up against what she said was her abuser, and I trust that instinct, and I will have that instinct going forward. But that being said, I will be sure to look more into things before taking a really harsh stance like I did with this situation. But let's round out this intro on a happier note, and what is the happiest note that we can do? It's mentioning our new patrons that joined the team. So shout out to Gerald Monreal, Laura Avila, Eva Wilson, Erica Swan, Samantha Z, Emma Hart, Beck Skolnick, Natasha Hillier, Hannah Eliza Wadrick, Elliot Fogo, Anke, Isabel, Iona Gilbraith, David Kirkpatrick, Andrew Scott, Andrea Kaplan, and the return of Thomas McDonough. Shout out to Melissa M. Dickinson, who upgraded their pledge, and a huge shout out to our new producer-level patrons, Maria, and the return of Matt Barger. They joined the ranks of Vicky, Aaron, Jesse, Clow, Marchismo, Samantha, Juan, Rosemarie, Maria, Lisa, Romina, Audra, Eleanor, Roxanne, Nikita, Ali, Amelia, Sarah, Ben, Rachel, Zachary, Orchid, Vivian, Takari, Haley, Mooster, Ingen, Alex, John, Noel, Emily, Liz, Brandon, Sarah, Claire, Rory, Gloria, Veronica, Lotta, Noah, Tracy, Colleen, Jennifer, Friday, Ivor, Naomi, Summer, Andrea, Lynn, Justin, Christine, Jacob, Toothless, Maya, Mark, Polly, Netta, Zena, Harlan, Noelia, Addie, Nikki, Kine, Amanda, Alicia, Kafir, Lindy, Sarah, Marta, Erin, Eileen, Violet, Lindsay, Keegan, Miranda, Gail Ann, Mr. Folk, Maya, Kieran, Lily, Wire Warrior, Floor, Siri, Georgia, Peter, Skyla, Edel, Professor Threat, Ellie, Daniel, Lee, Lily, Elizabeth, Michael, Tiffany, Kelly, Carrie, Connie, Mary, Jennifer, Jaden, Nedry, Will, Samantha, Kayla, Aurora, Emma, Out of Context, Marcos, Hannah, Courtney, Victoria, Marique, Ashton, Brittany, Phelan, Julie, The Meadows Family, Ginny, Anna, Fake, Brianna, Jenny, Sarah, McKenna, Mary, Joy, Heather, Dead Cat Lady, Javi, Darlene, Brad, Thomas, Charlotte, Brianna, Kevin, Lori, Chrissy, Bugaboo, Jarl, Haley, Emma, Ashley, Peta, Sophie, Jack, Jen, and Nicole, Callahan, Kylo, Leah, Melissa, Jordy, Bella, Melanie, Bill, Victoria, Joe, Elizabeth, Britt, Molly, Becca, Anthony, Rees, Adam, Madison, Kyle, Tonks, G, Sabrina, Sophia, Farzan, Melanie, David, Steamed Nuggets, and Can't I Potter? Who never forget where they put their wireless earbuds and then are forced to play music really loudly on their phone to try to listen where their earbuds are and walk around their apartment trying to find them. Don't worry, I did find them. If you want to be like one of these amazing patrons and get access to bonus episodes, exclusive live streams, director's commentary, you can head on over to patreon.com/Potterless. But without further ado, let's get into episode 111 of Potterless, the second of 3 parts about the 7th movie, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, guest starring Jonas, Robinett, Helen Zaltzman, and Martin Austwick. And welcome back to another episode of Potterless, the tale of a grown man who didn't read the Harry Potter novels as a kid, but then read them as an adult and is now watching all of the movies. My name is Mike Schubert, I'm that grown man, and I'm here joined again by 3 lovely humans in person. I've got Jonas, aka Joe Nasty Draws, and on the internet across America, even though they're from across the pond, we've got Helen Zaltzman and Martin Austwick. Everyone, how's it going?
It's going great.
Tremendous.
Yeah. Wonderful.
We should be more excited. I'm happy to be here.
It's been minutes since we've talked about Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, the movie, but we are going to keep it going. We did not get very far into the movie in Part 1, but it's okay. I believe in us in this Part 2.
I feel like we've also dispatched some of the things that otherwise we might have chronologically said later.
This is true.
But we got them done early doors.
Yeah, so we'll just move it right along and keep it going.
Yeah.
We left off at praising the scene where Ron and Harry kind of argue a little bit back and forth. But then, as they walk back towards the burrow, they do something that the movies make a habit of. This started in the 6th movie and has crept into the 7th, is that when people talk about important plot points related to Horcruxes, they always are either whispering, mumbling, or talking really quickly. And in this case, they are mumbling and talking really quickly. Ron's like, okay, so you have Horcruxes left, right? And you destroyed them. What's left? I don't know. I got to figure out where they are. Do you have any idea where they are? Did Dumbledore say? It's like, can we slow down? This is literally the plot of the film. It would be nice if we all talked very clearly and coherently about what is happening.
Maybe they're like, we've got to do all this bollocks with the Deathly Hallows, so let's not talk too much about the Horcruxes because people are going to get really confused.
Jonas, as someone that didn't read the books, are you comfortable with what is happening here? Was it a little bit confusing? I've always wondered this is trying to separate from my book knowledge from what they actually portray in the film.
Even though I never really read the books, I know a lot of Harry Potter lore.
Okay.
Like I know about Horcruxes and all that and the Deathly Hallows and everything. So it wasn't too confusing because I'm like, okay, I know Harry is a Horcrux.
Right. Yes, he is.
Okay. But I don't know what other objects are Horcruxes. I don't know what that thing is that they had to destroy in this movie. The one thing.
Oh, the locket.
Yeah, just more Horcruxes. That's all I asked for. Just not the one that spent on one movie.
Yeah, I just don't think they ever did an incredibly sound job of explaining exactly the process behind it. Because in the 6th movie, they leave out some of the flashbacks that explain it. And then in the 7th, by not having a narrator, it's hard.
Yeah.
But I think this was really done dirty because in the 6th, they just really mess up all of it. So that by the time the 7th comes around, there's only so much that they can go off of to teach you.
Yeah.
Well, what have they messed up in the 6th movie?
They left out one of the pensive trips. The whole thing that Dumbledore and Harry do in the 6th book is that they keep having these little coaching sessions where Dumbledore shows through the pensive glimpses into Tom Riddle / Voldemort's past as he is becoming more and more evil, how he learns about Horcruxes, how he starts to make them, etc. And some of what the items are and why they're important, like the ring and the locket is a separate thing, but they also kind of glance over that really quickly in the 6th movie. So I think it's just kind of lost about what the Horcruxes are and how they have to find them. They also add this weird thing where in the movies, when you touch one, you can figure out where the next one is, kind of thing. There's just a main way that they try to convey this is through really rapid visions in Harry's brain that are inherently confusing for Harry to understand, and thus the viewer of the movie. So it doesn't help.
That does sound confusing.
I don't know. It's not very well done.
I'm sorry you had to go through that, Shoops.
Well, I didn't have to go through it because I've read the books. I feel bad for people that haven't.
I was so confused.
In your investigation of these movies, have you found whether they tend to work for people who have not read the books, or is reading the books really the only way to get through them?
What I found as a whole, especially through doing these episodes where one person has always not read the books, I think the movies do a good enough job of conveying the big picture items and all of the major actions that take place. I think the biggest thing that gets lost along the way is the emotion behind things. So you lose out on some character motivation, you lose out on why things are significant, you lose out on why some things are supposed to evoke certain emotions just because it feels like they're just going through the motions of, oh, well, this thing happened, so we have to do this thing, but you don't necessarily get to see why that thing is so important or heart-wrenching or whatever.
Yeah. For example, the Molly situation where she didn't really have, it didn't feel like any emergency coming from her. Yeah. Or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. So I think you can still get the major plot across, but you lose out on some stuff, and some characters get portrayed differently. Ron is really dopey in the movies for the most part, and he's a lot more competent in the books. So I think is he? He's at least a little more put together and knows some stuff. I think he's an essential member of the squad because he has the wizarding background, so sometimes he can contribute things.
Well, I feel like he there's something that happens off screen, isn't there, where he saves someone's life, and then the other character's like, Ron?
Oh, speaking of things that happen off screen, Mad-Eye Moody dies off screen.
Is he really dead?
He deserves more.
He also dies off book screen too, and that's why I always thought he was coming back. This is one of my classic predictions in Potterless that went wrong. Is I really thought Mad-Eye Moody was coming back for sure.
I don't know if this is gonna be a spoiler. You can take this out if you want.
There's no spoilers at this point.
It's about the 8th movie.
That's fine. No, I've seen it. We're good.
George dies, right?
Fred dies.
Fred dies, but isn't that off screen also? You just see his dead body, or I've never
in the books. In the books, you see it, and I believe in the movies you see it too.
Okay, I just never.
Hold that thought there, Jonas. Past Mike was incorrect. The death of Fred in the movie is off screen. You just have the squad walk up and see everyone crying about Fred's death. So my bad on that one. Anyway, back to the podcast.
Well, they killed the good acting twin.
Well, because I remember because I told you I was watching this with the girl I was dating, and we were watching at this 4 in the morning, so I'd fall asleep in and out. And then next thing I know, I see what's his name? Fred dead, and who? What's his name?
Percy, George, Harry, Ron.
No, the
Piglet.
The guy that turned into a dog.
Oh, Sirius Black.
Not Sirius Black or Lupin.
Lupin is a werewolf.
Okay. I see Lupin dead, right?
Yes.
I didn't see him die.
That one is an off-screen one.
Okay.
So they do the mix of off-screen and on-screen things. So in this movie, it is much like the book where they just come by and you hear that Moody is dead, but that's it. But differently, in the movie, once Moody's dead, nobody gives a shit about Moody anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas in the books, they do care more about him when they are doing the heist in the ministry and they break into Umbridge's office. She has Moody's magical eye hooked up to her door.
Oh, yes.
As some sort of magical peephole of sorts. And then Harry steals it and he ends up burying the eye under a really knotted tree to sort of pay homage to Moody. So they care a little bit more about him. But in this movie, it's like, oh, Moody's dead? Okay, cool. Let's keep going.
But you do see that, don't you, in the film? You see the eye, but you don't know that it's Moody's eye.
Isn't it in the locket?
No, so that's a different eye. That's Voldemort's eye. Moody's like actual physical magical eye.
Can't you keep track of the different eyes and the mirror eye? There's a whole eye motif, isn't there?
So many eyes.
There is an eye on Umbridge's door in the film, isn't there?
Oh, it is there.
But she's not there, so they can't go, oh, where did you get that cool eye? I found it on the ground.
Well, because in the book, Harry steals it. So he just leaves it there in the movie? That's sad. I was looking for it, but maybe I just didn't see it.
I don't know if he leaves it. You see it at the beginning, but you don't see it at the end when he leaves, I don't think.
How is it not attached?
I think they had it attached where a peephole goes, and then on the other side of it, there was what looks like a telescope so that she could look through it or something. It's a much more ornate setup in the book, and Harry destroys it, and that's what initially gives away that he was in her office. Whereas in the movie, he just kind of walks out, and people see him, and they're like, Rumcorn? Huh? Anyway, I think they just didn't care about Moody, and that's sad, because Moody's important.
I was sad about Moody.
They've got another Gleason in this to concentrate on. They've got Donal.
They've got enough to go around.
Yeah.
So everyone goes to bed, and then they're getting ready for the wedding the next day or a couple days after. And I do love that they have the scene where Harry and Ginny have an intimate moment where Ginny needs the back of her dress zipped up, which is not how it's done in the book. But in the movie, they just, for some reason, decide that the way that Harry and Ginny show intimacy is by fixing each other's clothes.
Yeah, like middle-aged people. Because
I felt like that was very British.
That's not how we demonstrate affection by like, oh, let me pull up your sock.
Like British people do.
In movie 6, there's the really awkward scene where Ginny ties Harry's shoe and then they kiss. And now in this one, Ginny has him zip up the back of her dress. And Harry takes way too long to zip it up.
Yeah.
Do you not know how zippers work, Daniel Radcliffe?
No, because wizards have never been taught to Farquhar to do up other people's zippers.
There it is. Yeah, they just do it with their wands.
Yeah, can she not just do it herself with her wand?
No, that's not intimate enough.
She's using it as an excuse.
Yeah, she could steal a moment of intimacy with Harry as a zipper or shoelace-related request.
It is desperate.
That's how you do it. That's her signature move.
That's how you get people with zippers.
Harry goes over, zips it up, and then they kiss. And then George does the great thing where he sees them doing this and sticks a knife in the hole in his ear and then just awkwardly sees them and goes, morning.
I don't know. If I was a brother I saw my little sister kissing some dude, I'd be like, I gotta leave.
Yeah, I would not do that. I'd do a quick pivot 180. It's like that gif of the old grandpa from The Simpsons where he comes in, takes his hat off, puts it on the hat rack, immediately turns around, puts his hat back on, and leaves.
I was
the
thinking
door.
more of the baby that runs in and then like gets really shocked and runs back.
Yeah, but George is always there to make a joke, so he's got to do it.
I mean, when you own a business, it's all pranks.
Yeah.
So you have to take advantage of
it
every
becomes
situation.
your life.
It's tax deductible.
No spreadsheets, just pranks. That's business.
So then you have the scene where Scrimgeour comes in with his gross hair and he gives the things that Dumbledore has left for Harry in his will.
Mm-hmm.
And the first of which he gives the Deluminator, which I wouldn't even get into about how this thing should be called the Put-Outer, not the Deluminator, a whole big another argument that I've made too many times on the podcast, but gives the Deluminator / Put-Outer to Ron and then gives the book to Hermione and then gives the snitch to Harry and then can't give the sword to Harry because they say the sword is missing. And that is different in the book to the movie. Because in the book, I believe that they just refuse to give him the sword because they've confiscated it. And then there's the whole thing that they don't end up really showing in this movie or the 8th movie where there is a copy of the sword at the school, and they think that's the real one, but it's actually a duplicate that Snape had in his office that Bellatrix put in her vault and all this other stuff.
People probably sell like fake swords of Gryffindor just as souvenirs in the wizard world.
It seems like they would. I think this is probably a smart choice on the movie's part, though, just to make things a little bit easier.
Yeah.
This is already very complicated, isn't it? So
Yes.
there's a scene later where Bellatrix gets pissed off because she thinks that someone's gone into her vault. So she thinks she's got the real sword in her vault. And how did the real sword not... I don't... Like... Why is it in a lake?
For Arthurian imagery, that's why it's in the lake, Martin.
Oh, right, yeah,
Because she's borrowed from classical literature.
So in the book, what's supposed to happen is that Snape has what they think, or that they're lying, is a real version of the sword in his office. And then they decide to guard that for safekeeping in Bellatrix's vault because Voldemort knows that it can destroy Horcruxes.
Right.
But they've already done the switcheroo, and this is
But who did the switcheroo?
a fake version. Dumbledore, and Snape set it up.
Okay.
Where it's a fake one. So the sword that was left, quote unquote, in the will was the fake one, but they did this on purpose so that it would get confiscated, and then Bellatrix put it in her vault, all this other stuff. The movie, they just decide to say, you aren't entitled to the sword, but also we can't give it to you anyway because the sword is missing.
So prior to his death, Dumbledore swapped out the sword, gave Snape the fake one. What did he do with the real one?
I think they hid it behind Dumbledore's painting. I'm not 100% sure. They hid it somewhere, and then Snape had it hidden in his office so that when he actually gives it to him, because Snape is the one who hides it in the lake and the Do Patronus and everything, they hid it so that Snape could give it to them at the right time when they needed it to destroy the Horcruxes.
How is Snape's nail care? Does he use the sword to clean his nails and like push his cuticles back and stuff?
I would like to live in the world where he does.
It's not very practical. He'd use a smaller implement.
Nothing about the wizarding world is practical, Martin. A lot of it is about symbolism and just showing off and inconveniencing yourself.
Well, so what's the symbolism of doing your cuticle pushing with the sword of Gryffindor?
That's not symbolic.
Oh, okay.
That's just practical. Well, that's their version of practical in that it's
just a
90%
flex.
harder than it needs to be.
It's just a big flex if you can pick at your nails with a sword.
Yeah, he also uses it to open letters,
Chop his grapefruits,
spread butter. It's filthy.
open his envelopes, uses it as a walking stick on hikes.
Is it dishwasher safe? Does Canon point to that? I guess it's been at the bottom of a lake, so it's probably dishwasher safe if it can survive icy water.
He uses it to pretend to be a lightsaber.
They say that because it's goblin made, it can't rust or dirt. So
yeah.
you can put it in the dishwasher, or maybe you don't even need to.
You could spread your anchovy spread with it and it would still be pristine at the end.
Anchovy spread.
Well, they won't know what gentleman's relish is, will they? That's a very British thing.
Yeah, but it's wizard's relish in Wizarding World anyway, and it's probably made out of like some kind of supernatural worm.
Ooh, use it for Vegemite on toast.
That's what I was literally about to say.
Is that just an Australian thing or is that a British UK thing too?
Vegemite.
Yeah.
Well, we have it in Britain, but it is originally Australian. In Britain, we have
Is
something
Marmite
almost...
a British one or is that also Australian?
Marmite is the British one. There is also Vegemite, and they taste similar, and yet people will defend their respective ones in an unnecessarily powerful way.
I think I've had both, and I believe that I enjoyed Vegemite more.
Did you do it properly?
I had an Australian friend in high school, and he gave me, much like the song by Men Without Hats, he handed me a Vegemite sandwich. Though he did not say, I come from a land down under.
So isn't it like you had to put butter on it first?
Yes,
Okay.
that is the key.
So I tried it without the butter. It was very disgusting.
I believe Hugh Jackman explained that in a late night TV interview once.
You need to spread it because it needs lubricant, because you only need to distribute a very small amount. Otherwise, it is deeply unpleasant.
Because it's really pungent and the jar is really tiny.
Salty.
So if the sword of Gryffindor essentially repels grease, it's like an oleophobic kind of material. Would that mean you get a very even spread? Because you don't get that thing of like big chunks of butter or Marmite or Vegemite
Could you
clumping
spread
on the sword.
fridge cold butter with the sword of Gryffindor?
That would be such a useful application.
It really
Yes.
seems like this thing should not be used to destroy Horcruxes, but instead used in the kitchen to make the best meals.
I can imagine an infomercial being selling this.
You can buy one on QVC. The sword of Gryffindor. You can use it for everything. Chop the vegetables. Stir the stew.
Have you ever tried to spread butter on some toast, but it doesn't really go right?
And then it's like one of those black and white videos of someone trying to do it with the dagger of Ravenclaw, and it doesn't work. It's so clumpy.
Gotta be a better way.
Sick of using diadems to make your toast?
You know that in those, they're always showing a knife cutting through a can.
Yeah, or a
I bet
phone
the sword
book.
of Gryffindor
Yes.
could cut right through a can.
I love this.
So do you think that's what like Bobby Flay's secret is? He's been using the sword of Gryffindor to get his barbecue rub.
That's what it is.
Does Bobby Flay have secrets? Don't answer that.
Yes.
There's probably some lawsuits pending.
So anyway, Harry Potter, the sword is missing. And the other thing that I think is funny about the scene is that the snitch just flies near Harry's shoulder like it's Na'vi in...
Yeah, it's Zelda.
Yeah, in The Legend of Zelda.
Put it away safely, Harry. Like, he seems not even aware of where it is. It's like his legacy from Dumbledore. Oh.
Yeah, you know that snitches are notorious for flying away. And he's
Yeah.
just like, yep, this is on my shoulder.
But it has something important to share.
It does.
So that's why it stays.
I open it to close.
It's got Vegemite in it.
Ooh, a snack. Thanks, Dumbledore.
Yeah, because it's like, I open at the close. When you need a late night snack before going to bed, Vegemite sandwich.
There it is. Boom, boom, boom. So later on, we get the wedding after they've built the tent, which I think is a fun little scene.
That's
and
nice.
at the wedding, one of the first things that I thought was great is the dance between Xenophilius and Luna, where they're
Yeah.
spinning in a circle
Yeah.
with jazz hands / spirit fingers. I thought was very
Apparently,
fun.
Vanna Lynch invented those moves, and mad respect to her.
It's very good. Also, I was so happy with the casting of Xenophilius Lovegood because before I watched this movie, I thought, you know who'd make a great Xenophilius Lovegood? That guy from Notting Hill and The Replacements.
The replacements.
And
Exactly.
then, is it Rhys Ifans?
Yeah.
How do you say this guy's name?
Rhys Ifans, he's a Welsh actor. He kind of looks a bit too young in the face, but I
Yes.
think it's partly that terrible wig that is like Bill Nighy's wig, but blonde rather than maroon.
Yeah, the age thing I think is the only downside is that he does look a little too young, but personality-wise, I thought it was an unbelievably perfect casting
great.
choice.
Again, but you've got a Welsh actor doing an Irish accent.
They've both got Irish accents.
Not a particularly like strong or convincing one, I don't think.
And also because they grew up just a hill away from the Weasleys. Like, I'm going to shut up about it eventually, but
Maybe
not yet.
maybe they grew up in Ireland and then they moved after
Yeah,
a couple
right.
years.
Maybe.
Some people just keep their accent.
Yeah,
Maybe.
that's true. So Aunt Muriel in this scene, I always imagined her being that drunk, much more Cockney sounding aunt at the wedding, but in this film, she's very proper and condescending, which is not the vibe I gathered from the book. I thought she was going to be a little more like raunchy and rural and down to earth kind of. But alas, we get fancy Aunt Muriel. But I do love Doge. I think he's just a perfect, lovable old man character here.
Doge was the writer.
Yes. The guy that was close with Dumbledore.
I loved his outfit. Like many jackets.
Yep. Layers upon layers.
That's how you go to a wedding. You got to put layers upon layers, especially in a Texas wedding.
Oh gosh, that's why my Texas wedding will be in February, so that it'll be 75.
God.
So the wedding is going on, and you miss out on Crumb being at the wedding, which is a sad thing that they've removed from the film. In the book, Jonas, what happens is Victor Crumb is in attendance at the wedding, which of course makes Ron a little upset.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he's got that history with Hermione. Also makes Harry upset because Crumb starts saying that Ginny looks really attractive, and Harry, who is disguised as not Harry, he's disguised as a random muggle that looks like it could be a Weasley, and he's pretending to be a random cousin. So there's a fun scene where Crumb starts noting that Ginny is attractive, and Harry has to lie that she has a boyfriend, and it's a very fun scene.
I wonder if Victor Crumb is related to Salacious Crumb.
Who's that?
It's a Star Wars character.
Oh, well,
do you watch Star Wars?
No, I've seen like 2 of them. So
it's the
you can catch that in Tatooine-less.
It's just Jabba the Hutt's like Kabuki and monkey lizard that just laughs like this, like.
Oh, well, yes, it is now canon that they are brothers.
Okay, good.
But another thing that happens with Victor Crumb being there is that Crumb sees Xenophilius wearing that Deathly Hallows medallion, and you learn that that symbol is one that was also used by Grindelwald, who is another Hitler-esque type oppressive character. And Crumb gets super pissed at Xenophilius for wearing it.
Yeah.
So this gives you a little more intrigue about that symbol, which makes it make a little more sense when Hermione notices the symbol in the book. Whereas in the movie, Hermione just sees the symbol written twice.
Yeah.
And she puts 2 and 2 together there.
Yeah.
Whereas they already had their eye out for it because Crumb made such a big deal of it at the wedding.
So Victor Crumb is not in this movie.
No, he's not.
He is in the credits.
I think they originally shot him to be in the movie and then they cut the scene.
Okay.
I'm almost positive about that. Yeah. I got to meet the actor that played him, and I believe that they filmed a scene of him dancing with Hermione at the wedding, but then they cut it. So unfortunately, you miss out on that. Another thing that they do and they change for the movie with the wedding scene is that when Kingsley sends a Patronus to warn that the Death Eaters are coming, it's just a sphere, which is upsetting on many levels.
It's a news ball.
He sends the news ball, which is very boring, but also Kingsley's Patronus is a lynx, which is just cool.
Yeah.
And I want to see a lynx, but also what makes it helpful in the book and annoying here is that this is another instance of a Patronus being used as more than just a means of defense against Dementors.
Yeah.
So in the book, what makes this useful is that they send the links and it says, the Death Eaters are coming, everybody leave. And then you realize, oh, okay, you can use a Patronus to do this. There was one other time a Patronus was done. Dumbledore sent it, but it was kind of vague about it. And same thing with Tonks. This makes it very clear. Patronuses can be used to send messages and do more than just get rid of Death Eaters.
Yeah.
So later on in the book, when Snape does the dough to tell Harry, hey, the sword's over here, you idiot, come get it out of this pond, then you are more on board.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would make it a sphere. Was the visual effects department too lazy to make a sphinx? I don't get it.
Probably
A
not
sphinx.
enough money.
Or a lynx, sorry. A lynx.
I mean, Sphinx would be a really cool Patronus.
Lynx, Sphinx, what's the difference?
Does the lynx talk?
Yeah, the lynx talks.
That would have been cool.
Right?
Yeah.
That would have been super cool.
Maybe the visual effects department is with you, though, where it seems a little inappropriate to send the Patronus in this circumstance, and they're like, we're going to fix that.
And just make it a ball?
Yeah, news ball. News is not fun. It's not fun like a lynx.
It would save a lot more money that way.
Just quicker to do a news ball than a lynx.
I
News
guess.
is spherical in the United Kingdom.
That's just, that's how it is. You guys have spherical TVs that only play the news.
Yeah, it's actually a muggle thing to send a news ball. The BBC does them.
So they end up having the mass hysteria of the Death Eaters crashing the wedding, and Ron, Harry, and Hermione then apparate out of there. And I believe that the street that they go to in the movie is different than the street that they go to in the books. And I'm guessing that they changed that just so that they could be at Piccadilly Circus.
Yeah, well, I think it's just such a big shift in environment for them. So that contrast is really stark because they're somewhere really noisy, really busy, a lot of different looking people who aren't wizards. So it's kind of exciting to see them deal with that. And also it's like, okay, Hermione has got this kind of muggle code switching power because she's probably been there before. Although, like, where they are is just very close to Charing Cross Road, which is where Diagon Alley is. So chances are all wizards have been to Piccadilly Circus before. It's literally like 5 minutes away.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up real quick the other street that they go on. Oh, okay. So in the book, they go to Tottenham Court Road.
Right. That's a very large street that's got like...
A lot of electrical retailers. You could buy a camera there. Nice, not but get yourself a nice tripod.
It's not great, but it's like a big, busy road.
But it's not as busy as Piccadilly Circus.
Yeah, it's unlovely.
It's a bit boring.
Okay, so it's not as iconic as doing something that is basically the Times Square of London. They say this is Shaftesbury Avenue.
Which runs off Piccadilly Circus.
Yeah, they're all close to each other, but Tottenham Court Road is not an iconic-looking place.
Okay, I guess it makes sense. A directorial decision. Yeah, it's probably just going for, like you said, that shock value of this is very different than where we just were.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that busy like on a Saturday night, which is, I presume, when this is. It wouldn't be like all these people swarming up and down, but Piccadilly Circus and Shaftesbury Avenue would.
Yeah, Tottenham Court Road is like, there's not any clubs, so there's only a couple of bars on there. It'd be pretty boring on a Saturday night.
Well, there we go. I'm glad I'm learning so much about London and how the streets work and stuff. So speaking of that, they go to this late night cafe. And this was something that I was confused by when I covered this in the books. Just the fact that it's just one person making everything at this diner and no one else working there. Well,
there might be someone in the kitchen in the back who would like fry the eggs and then the person in front taking the orders and making the drinks.
But they're
That's
small.
plausible.
Like, these cafes are small. There might be a dozen tables.
But they usually open like morning up till mid-afternoon because they tend like the major part of their clientele is like people who work really early shifts and then need to have lunch at like 9 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little like the kind of late night cafes. You do get them in Soho, but they're a little more like the kind of fancy cafes and coffee and cakes rather than that sort of. It's what we call in Britain a greasy spoon, which is where you get like a big plate of chips and an egg and chips.
They're usually open from like 6 a.m. till 4 p.m. if that.
So there's a little bit of mixing of cultural references here.
Yeah. But I did enjoy seeing Harry, Hermione and Ron in one of those.
Yeah.
And also I think in there's a poster for Equus, which Daniel Radcliffe was in.
Oh, was there?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
I think what was funny is when they're ordering the cappuccino, Ron and Harry not knowing what's happening is very fun. But what I found interesting in this place is that I get that they have to do an excuse for the waitress to go behind the door so she doesn't see the whole fight breaking out. And that's why they give her the headphones, which is not what's done in the book. Yeah. But just by the way a coffee shop should work, why is the coffee machine behind the door in the kitchen? Those are usually right at the counter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that a normal thing? I don't.
No, I think it would usually be closer to the action, but then you wouldn't get that shot of like this fight happening through that window in the door.
That great scene. I mean, that's comedy gold right there.
Lovely.
They don't do that in movies.
I guess they were going for comedy there. It wasn't very funny. But then also after the fight, when she comes out and sees everything destroyed, and then Hermione just yells, "Leave!
Yeah.
Go! Get out of here!"
I mean, she could have delivered a better joke. Just be like, oops.
It was like this when we got here. Also, these people have seen a lot. Like if you were running a cafe that's open late at night in central London, you've seen all the shit.
Exactly.
But realistically, cafes like this can no longer afford to pay the rents in central London.
Well, they do the scene. They do everything else is pretty similar with them knocking out the other Death Eaters and obliviating them, etc. But then they escape over to Grimmauld Place and they go inside and they change the way that the booby traps are set up here in the movie. They basically just have a Dustbledor, if you will, just kind of go up and spook them and then go away.
It reminded me of Daniel Radcliffe's film The Woman in Black, because there's sort of that effect of her like screeching towards the screen and it's frightening. So maybe it's just a lot of Daniel Radcliffe tributes in this patch of the film.
But like it doesn't do anything. It just comes up and just flies towards them.
Right.
You really just have to like scream and then it's all over.
Yeah.
And you're fine. You're just a bit dusty.
Mm-hmm. What happens in the book is that Moody has set a particular spell on Grimmauld Place such that I believe it calls out Severus Snape's name when you go in, and then it's set in a particular way that if Snape talks, it's a spell where he can't say anything anymore, so he wouldn't be able to do any spells. It's much more clear that it is targeted against Snape going back, since he still has access to Grimmauld Place, but now that he's killed Dumbledore in book 6, they don't trust
Right.
Snape anymore. So they've set these anti-Snape booby traps. But when Hermione explains that this Dust Dumbledore is an anti-Snape trap, you just have to think, why? What was that going to do? Does Snape really not like being dusty?
Yeah.
He's got to leave and wash his cloak.
It's like a PTSD. Oh no, I killed him. And then he leaves.
I guess that's what they were going for.
I guess, like,
just to make Snape feel
Make him
bad.
guilty. Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's what they were trying.
Snape wouldn't want to be dusty because it would look like he had dandruff on his black robes.
True.
And his greasy hair. Dust plus grease is not a good combo.
And then Voldemort would be like, "Oh, I know where you've been." That's a dust trap right there.
Classic dust traps, am I right? Wow. Well, while we're reminiscing about these lovely traps of dust, let's take a little bit of a break for Wingardium Adridosa. Today's episode of Potterless is brought to you by DoorDash. Let's say hypothetically that you were in Phoenix, Arizona, the Thursday after a live podcast that you performed, and you and your best friend Johnny were in your Airbnb doing some work before you go on a hike, and you need to get a weird in-between meal because you don't want to go on the hike hungry, but it's like 3 p.m. You don't want to leave because you don't have a car and you don't want to pay for a lift. What are you going to do? You're going to use DoorDash. Yes, this story was 100% true. I was working on Potterless stuff. I didn't want to leave. I wanted the food delivered directly to me, and DoorDash was there for me. DoorDash brings all of America's flavors to your door. Ordering is super easy. Just use the DoorDash app, open it up, choose what you want, and your food will be delivered directly to you wherever you are, even if that's Phoenix, Arizona. They have over 310,000 restaurant partners in 4,000 cities, so you could get some pizza, you could get some ramen, or you could get a gyro like I did. They have door-to-door delivery in all 50 US states, Puerto Rico, Canada, and Australia, so you can get your local favorites, such as, I can only assume in Australia, Outback Steakhouse for a bloomin' onion. With DoorDash, you never have to worry about your next meal, even if it's a weird in-between 3 o'clock pre-hike snack. And as a Potterless listener, you can get $5 off your first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter the promo code Potterless. That's $5 off your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code Potterless at checkout. So get the DoorDash app, download it, use the promo code Potterless, save $5 as long as your order is $15 or more, and get that weird in-between Euro meal before your hike in Phoenix today. Today's episode of Potterless is also brought to you by PERFEC Snacks. Let's say hypothetically that you're hanging out with your adorable niece Aurora, and she's 3 years old, and she has seen you eat Perfect bars and has been very jealous about this because you are an adult and you are eating these adult-sized Perfect bars, which are not designed for her little 3-year-old body. But you know what is? Perfect Kids bars from PERFEC Snacks, which exist and which I've had, and they're equally tasty. They're just nice and tiny in the appropriate size and portions for tiny children. From the makers of Perfect Bar, the original refrigerated protein bar, Perfect Kids is a line of fresh from the fridge snack bars made from organic peanut butter. They have up to 8 grams of whole food proteins, made with 8 organic superfoods handpicked for kids' nutritional needs, and they have that same cookie dough-like texture that both you and your kids will love. Kelly and I have been sent a bunch of the little kids ones, and they're a nice little snack in the morning when you don't want a full Perfect bar, because it's a chunky protein bar to have first thing when you wake up, but you just need a tiny little homie over. Steal one of your kids' Perfect Kids bars, man. Much like Perfect bars, they're kept refrigerated, but they are good for up to 1 week out of the fridge. Nothing can spoil a carpool faster than a meltdown from your little one, which I have witnessed with Aurora. She's normally a gem. Sometimes has a tantrum, as we were all one to do. I used to have tantrums when I was 2. I was not the best. Terrible 2s. I lived them to my fullest. If I had Perfect Kids bars, I would have been super happy to get some of that dark chocolate peanut butter goodness up in my mouth. I would have stopped crying immediately. And other than the kids loving the taste, as a parent, you'll feel good about it because they are organic, gluten-free, soy-free, kosher, and low GI. And whether you are a parent and you need to survive parenthood, or you don't have kids and you want to survive life, you can get a full-size protein bar, a Perfect bar from PERFEC Snacks, and they have a bunch of different flavors. My favorite, as I've said before, is the dark chocolate peanut butter. I love dark chocolate. I love peanut butter. Putting the two of them together is so fantastic. It's these tiny little dark chocolate chips, and they're very, very tasty. You have to try them. And as a Potterless listener, you can get 15% off your online order if you go to perfectbar.com/Potterless. Yes, this is a different URL than last time, so take note. You can shop refrigerated snacks at perfectbar.com/Potterless today to get 15% off your order. So get ready for this season with Perfect Kids or Perfect Bar at perfectbar.com/Potterless. Save 15% and make sure that you or your niece Aurora or both of you are well fed and fueled today. And finally, today's episode of Potterless is brought to you by Tab for a Cause. Let's say hypothetically that you're trying to find some Horcruxes, and this is a more modern adaptation of Harry Potter, and you have the internet, and you're trying to search around on the internet for all the different places that they could be. You're doing a bunch of research. You're opening a bunch of new tabs. You want this to be productive even if you don't find the Horcruxes. How are you going to make this productive? You're going to install the Google Chrome extension of Tab for a Cause. I have Tab for a Cause set up on my browser. Kelly does as well. It's so nice because you just open a bunch of tabs throughout the day. If you are a garbage person like me, you open hundreds upon hundreds of tabs. And what's great about Tab for a Cause is that every time you open a tab, that is money that you can give to charity. It's great. It's something you're already going to do. You might as well donate to charity while you're doing it. So far on Tab for a Cause, they have raised over $852,000 for charity. That is fantastic. They have a bunch of really great charities to choose from. I've given to water.org. I've given to the Nerdfighteria charity, the Fight Against World Suck. There are so many good things that you can give to, and it's just something that you're already going to do. Setting it up is so easy. Just go to tabforacause.org/Potterless. It'll direct you to a page where you can add it to Google Chrome. It's an extension. It takes like 2 clicks, and then boom, you are saving the world by using the internet. Isn't that great? The internet can be a bad place, but Tab for a Cause makes it a better one. So again, go to tabforacause, tabforacause.org/Potterless, get it installed, and start raising money for charity while you search for Horcruxes on the internet today. So a little later on, you see the scene where they're all sleeping in Grimmauld Place, and you have Ron and Hermione holding hands from afar, which I think is very cute and done really well. But then Harry goes upstairs and starts exploring Sirius's room.
Why do wizards have such shit old furniture? They could have whatever they wanted. Why does it have to be this like really gross, uncomfortable, like 100-year-old beds?
It's the 90s.
But they had IKEA in Britain in the 90s. We had furnishings. It doesn't have to be this bad.
The other thing that doesn't make any sense is Sirius's door has a little Sirius plaque written on it, much like the way they have ladies or gents on a bathroom in a bar. It seems like such a strange way to put your name on the door.
But is it his childhood room? Would that
yes,
have been
it's his childhood room. It's not written in a cute way that's Sirius and the R is backwards in crayon or whatever. It's very much...
Hey, he made that when he was a kid. He was very...
No, but like if the parents were like, here's your room, little Sirius.
This is my room, Sirius. We got this at the bathroom label store.
Thank you, Papa. I will enjoy it. That's my best Sirius British accent.
You sound just like him.
I loved it.
Like a young Gary Oldman, a Gary Youngman. They change up a little bit of the room thing here because what's supposed to happen in the book is that you go into Sirius's room and it looks very different from all the other rooms in the house. It's supposed to have Gryffindor stuff plastered everywhere.
Nerd.
And then you can see a picture of him and James and the Quidditch team. And then Harry reads a note where Lily wrote to Sirius, and then there's only one part of the note, and you don't get the other part of it later when you get it from Snape. And they just toss this all to the side. Then they go into Regulus's room, and they very quickly wrap up all of the Locket stuff. So, Jonas, as someone that hasn't read the books, what is your understanding of the whole Regulus thing? Because the way they convey this in the 6th and 7th movie is incredibly confusing to me.
Okay. As far as I know about Regulus, I know nothing about him.
Okay.
And I was very confused because we don't really see this character or know much about him throughout this whole movie. Do we know more about him in the 8th movie?
Not really.
Okay, so he could be essentially a throwaway character. No reason to be in it?
So, kind of. They're in this weird middle ground of throwing him away and not throwing him away.
Okay.
So, what happens in the 6th book is that after Dumbledore dies, because he has the locket that Harry and him got out of the cave that Voldemort had set up, they open the locket and you find out that it's a fake locket because someone with the initials RAB stole the real one and placed it with the fake one. And he wrote that note. And in the 6th book, Harry reads this note, and then the squad is trying to figure out who is RAB. We have no idea who this is. You know that someone in Sirius's family is named Regulus Black.
Yeah.
From book 4 or 5, when you first see the family tree at Grimmauld Place. And then the reveal in 7 is, oh, that was Regulus Black. And Creature, the house elf, explains more about Regulus. He was a Death Eater up until the very end, and then he turned on Voldemort, and he was trying to make him not be able to come back and be evil, and was messing with the Horcruxes by switching out the lockets and stuff. Yeah. But in the movie, you just kind of cut to this part in the movie where they're like, yeah, there were 2 lockets and one's fake, but this is real. And
where's the real
so
one?
Rushed. Yeah.
I mean, the whole point of it was like Regulus was trying to destroy it.
Yes.
And then he couldn't, and then someone stole it. What's his name? Stole it.
Mundungus, yeah.
Mundungus, and then he got it stolen from him. So just really like, it makes no sense to have that character in there to me.
It's haphazardly done, I think. They get the point across, but it is a bit confusing and not fleshed out.
Do you think that these films ought to be able to stand on their own individually as films without you knowing stuff from the books that you then have to apply yourself?
They should.
Yeah.
I don't know that they do. I can't imagine watching this movie and not asking a question or two, at least, of someone who has read the books or looking stuff up later.
Yeah.
I don't get how someone could just watch this movie or any of the other ones in the series and just be completely satisfied with knowing everything. Maybe some of the earlier ones, but 6, 7, and 8, where there's much more complex Horcrux stuff going on, I don't get how you can't read into it further, because without the help of the narrator and the pensive trips and all this other stuff, it's hard to process all of it.
Yeah.
But alas, here we are. So
Processing it.
so they kind of just go through that really quickly, and then they show a scene after all of this with Death Eaters stopping the train on the way to Hogwarts, and some kid that isn't Draco says, "My father will hear about this." I think it might be playing the guy is supposed to be Zachariah Smith, maybe because of the curly blonde hair. But then they cut to Neville saying, "Hey, losers, he isn't here," which is great.
This is Neville being like, "Look, I'm hot now."
I got to cement myself as a badass now that I've gone
And
through
Ginny's
puberty.
there.
Ginny is there.
So she didn't get captured, or she?
Because she is pure blood, she's okay.
Yeah, what happened? Like, did people die at the Weasley wedding?
I don't know that they ever say if anybody dies at the Weasley wedding.
So the Death Eaters are just fucking it up to be jerks.
Well, they're going to try to find Harry, and then when Harry leaves, I think everything's okay.
Okay, because like if she's going to school, like nothing happened.
They're going to school because that's just what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And again, this is something that is left out of the movie a little bit, is the decision for Ron, Harry, and Hermione to leave is a bigger deal. And they have to do more things. They show you a little bit of the Hermione, how she gets out of it. Ron, they do a whole thing where that ghoul in the attic of their house, they put it in pajamas, and then they make it look like it has spattergroit, and they're pretending that that's Ron. So if anyone ever wonders why Ron isn't at school, they will say that he's really sick, and that's why he's not at Hogwarts. So you're right, Jonas. They kind of don't necessarily go into the whole who's at school, why are they at school, what's happening at school. They kind of toss that plot aside, which is more fleshed out in the books.
Okay.
But yeah, for the sake of what's going down, purebloods are fine, and they want all of them to go to the school because now they're putting evil people in charge of Hogwarts, and they want to start cultivating more people to join Voldemort's
Especially
side.
pure bloods instead of like any mudbloods or anything
Because
like that.
all they want are purebloods.
Yeah.
Because Voldemort's a Nazi.
Yes. Allegories.
So I very much enjoyed Neville's "Hey, losers."
Yeah.
Very good. Very, very good. Then a later on scene, we have the Ministry of Magic, which has a new statue in the middle of it. Yeah. They don't show the statue getting destroyed in the 5th movie because they just didn't have it there. But you have this new statue here, the Magic is Might statue, where you have the Muggles getting crushed by magic in their rightful place. And this is one of the first elements where that statue also felt incredibly Nazi-esque.
Yeah.
It felt really much like
Yes.
it was really obvious what they were going for there.
It's not subtle.
No, not at all.
Well, what's the sense of people? Okay, the Ministry of Magic seems like a very busy workplace with a lot of staff. Do they all have to get in there by flushing themselves down a toilet? If so, that is very inefficient. Also, those old-fashioned underground toilets in London, they're not that common anymore. And a lot of people going in there would attract attention.
And not coming out.
I think.
That's
And
the
not
biggest
coming
thing.
out.
Can you imagine being a regular person in that bathroom? You go to the stall, someone's there, and then somebody else walks in after them?
Yeah.
Well, what if you accidentally flush your phone into the Ministry of Magic?
Right?
Does the Ministry of Magic get full of like muggle piss and turds?
You have to
It
assume
must.
so.
It has to.
Yeah.
Why would you design this appalling system?
They're also not wet when they come out.
No, they're not.
So
They're not wet when they step in either. They describe that in the book, that when you step in, you don't get wet because it's all magic.
yeah. Imagine if we were tourists and we're like, oh, we gotta use this restroom. It's going by pretty fast. The line's going long. There must be an exit on the other side. And you go in and you're just like,
Wow, London's so strange.
yeah. It's so efficient with their exits and entrances.
It's one of those elevators where you go on one side and then the doors behind you open.
Well, also, all of our elevators are toilets. You have to flush yourself from floor to floor.
Yeah, the toilet thing was always strange. I don't even remember why in the books they do it. It's some sort of security measure.
How'd you get out again? Do you get popped out of the toilet?
Or does the fireplace bring you back to a toilet?
What if there's a muggle on the toilet? Because this is an open toilet. Like, do you get flushed out of the toilet up into whichever muggle is using the toilet?
It seems like a flawed system.
It does.
It's a disturbing piece of infrastructure.
Not a good look.
Why would you invent that?
Nah.
Like some wizard pranked everyone and then they were like, sorry, that's all you can have.
I need a Harry Potter YouTuber out there to do a short film about this. Just like 5 minutes of what just happened. They go back up and they end up in a stall with someone just like toilet paper in their hand, just not understanding what's going on.
Look, there has to be a bunch of fan fictions about this where then afterwards they fall in love and spend the rest of their lives together.
How did you meet? Well, I was just leaving work when I got wedged into a muggle's butt. Too far?
It was love at first fart. So...
Love at first shite, as we would say in Britain.
Oh, that's the better pun. Oh, amazing.
Good day.
You will win the Twitter poll this week of what's the best part of the episode.
Thank you. That will help my self-esteem.
Yeah, put that on your resume. Add that to your Wikipedia page. Oh, speaking of your Wikipedia page, first off, I was first looking into making a Wikipedia page for Potterless until I learned that you're not supposed to make your own Wikipedia page.
No.
But when you're making a page, or at least searching about making a page, you can see if your thing has been mentioned anywhere else on Wikipedia. And the only mention of Potterless on Wikipedia is your personal Wikipedia page.
Really?
Where you list, I don't know if you typed this or someone else made this on your behalf.
I don't think I did. No offense to you. I just don't update my own Wikipedia page unless someone's put a lie on it.
It's fine. Whoever updated it has a thing where they mention your guest appearance on other podcasts. And it says Helen Zaltzman has appeared on popular podcasts such as 99% Invisible, something, and Potterless. And I was like, I made the cut. So then there was no hyperlink because there's no page for Potterless. So I did the thing where you edit Wikipedia and it has an external link. So if you click Potterless, it goes to the episode you are on.
Hey.
Good job.
It's the only time I've edited Wikipedia before. I'm doing my civic duty.
Yes.
I can tell you how I got my Wikipedia page. I did not create it myself, but at the time I had an agent, and the agent's assistant created it. And that is the only thing my agent ever did for me, / agent's assistant.
Well, it's very nice.
The
And
end.
now Potterless exists on part of one Wikipedia page. So I am thankful.
Looks like I'm making a Wikipedia page tonight for Potterless.
Treat yourself.
Jonas, you are now my agent's assistant. Please.
Do you have an agent?
No.
Okay.
But I am my own agent, and now you've become my assistant. Please make me a Wikipedia page.
All right, I got it.
Can you represent me? Because I could use it. I don't know how to drive my career. I'm hurtling towards obsolescence.
Now, come on. You're on Potterless, the most popular Harry Potter podcast on the internet. Yay. So where did we leave off?
Oh, they're flushing themselves down the
Flushing
toilet.
down
and
the
getting wedged
toilets,
into
of course.
Muggle butts, remember?
Yes, of course. They do the scene in the Ministry where Scrimgeour is talking about all of the stuff that's going on and then has the quote that stood out to me where he says, you have nothing to fear if you have nothing to hide, when he's talking about the investigations that are going underway. Mm-hmm. And when he said this, I first thought, why does this quote sound familiar? And then I remembered my buddy David, who was on the podcast, made a song about thickness with me called Enter Thickness. And he used that quote in the song. And I was like, the thing that me and my friend made. That's why this quote sounds familiar.
Put that on Wiki Quotes.
Oh, yeah, I should put it on there. There you go. After this ministry scene, we're back at Grimmauld Place because Harry has told Creature to go find Mundungus Fletcher because Creature reveals that Mundungus Fletcher is the one who has the real locket. And when Creature comes back with Mundungus, we also get the return of Dobby, finally, which makes me really happy because they wrote Dobby out of the 4th movie. They wrote Dobby out of the 5th movie. So I'm glad that he's finally made his triumphant return.
I never thought I'd be pleased to see Dobby, but Dobby is really baller in this film.
In this one, he's fantastic. I mean, he exists solely to be annoying in the 2nd movie.
Yeah.
And then in the 4th movie, he gets a little bit better because he helps Harry Potter out and he helps out Winky, but you don't really know about it too much. In the 5th movie is when you really turn on Dobby, because that's when he reveals that he's been taking care of Winky, this other house elf that you never meet in the movies, Jonas, because she became alcoholic and he took care of her. And that's when he becomes a real sweetheart. So he really turns it around. And yes, in this 7th book and in this movie, he's such a badass.
I stan Dobby forever.
We all stan Dobby.
And he's voiced by Toby Jones, who is another great British actor.
That's Toby Jones.
Toby fucking Jones. Well, Martin's excited.
I love Toby Jones.
I am unfamiliar with Toby Jones's work.
He's the guy, he played Truman Capote in the film that wasn't Capote, but I think overall was a better film.
Okay. All right. There we go. Toby Jones. Who would have known?
Plays Toby Esterhazy, I think, in the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy film with Gary Oldman.
I know that guy.
He's in Barbarian Sound Studio.
He's in Captain America.
Oh, yes,
He plays Captain America.
He's the scientist, isn't he?
No, he plays Zoloft.
Zoloft.
Zolam.
He's a really chill character. Yeah. He's the guy that turns up in the computer in one of the one of the sequels.
Arnim Zol, something like that. I forget.
Yeah,
everyone's favorite Marvel character.
Yes.
Emile Zola, the painter.
So Dobby's back, makes me very happy. And when Mundungus comes in, Hermione does Expelliarmus, which actually makes his wand fly away and into her hand, which is a rarity in these movies because Expelliarmus has just become this catch-all spell in the movies where it just does whatever you need it to do, mostly just sending people flying through the air, which is not what Expelliarmus is supposed to do.
Right.
So I was very excited to see the spell actually do what our Lord and Savior J.K. Rowling intended. But after you learn from Mundungus what happened with the locket, mainly that Umbridge has it, it cuts right to the heist. And in the movie, Jonas, it is much more thought out. They plan this stealing of the locket back from Umbridge for days, and they're figuring out all that they're going to do with the polyjuice potion and which people they're going to steal the hair from and how they're going to make themselves disguised and what they're going to do and all of this stuff, which I think makes the plan itself funnier, is that they've done all this planning and then so much shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas in the movie, it's just, let's go.
Yeah.
It's already in media's res heist.
Yes.
I think that's all right. I don't have like a gaping hole in my knowledge of how this went down.
Right.
Yeah.
I can kind of feel that.
I think it makes sense.
So the comedy case the joint. Like, you can't hang outside the Ministry of Magic because presumably it doesn't have an entrance. It's all those
Toilets.
magic toilets.
Magic toilets.
Martin was out the room when we were talking about the toilet stuff, so he's missed all that glorious time.
True comedy gold.
I was like, why is Martin so quiet?
Very uncomfortable with the talk of toilets.
Martin had gone off to experiment in flushing him down the toilet in our hotel in Seattle just to see whether he ended up in the state capitol or something.
Did not succeed.
Oh, okay.
I've got very wet feet.
I do find it stressful, them going into this situation. I do think if I was one of them, I would definitely fuck it up.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. It's so nerve-wracking.
I like whoever it is that Harry is appearing as, though. He seems pretty fun.
Yeah, it's interesting because in the book, he's supposed to be somebody that is comically tall, super lanky. I always imagined Abraham Lincoln as who Harry transforms into. Just someone very tall and long and lanky. Because that's part of the fun, is that Harry's not used to this big body that he's got, which is kind of silly. But I do appreciate the casting of the person that Ron turns into, because the character that Ron turns into is named Reg Cattermole, and the person that is cast as him is the most Reg Cattermole looking person I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if this is a famous British actor, but he looks so much like a Reg Cattermole.
Stefan Rodri, he's in Wonder Woman. I'm not familiar with his work. He's a Welsh actor, but he's in loads of stuff. Colonel Darnell.
They just look so incredibly 70s and middle-aged, don't they? Like, I can't help feeling that every adult, certainly every like non-major character adult in this series is like a critique on adulthood from children. It's got this like big moustache and this like really normie haircut and huge lapels.
Yeah, all of the clothes that these people that work in the ministry are wearing are a children's idea of what adults wear.
Yeah.
It's very dated, but I guess it is the late 90s, so I guess it kind of makes sense, but it feels like they're wearing even older clothes.
But they're dressed like Kojak. like boring Kojak, like if Kojak worked in like a stapler factory.
What I had written in my notes is that Harry's outfit looks very much like Bill Lumbergh from Office Space.
Yeah.
The guy who has the suspenders, like, yeah, that would be great. He has almost the exact same shirt suspender combo. But I guess that was in the 90s, so maybe that was the style. Maybe the costumes are spot on.
I suppose wizards don't necessarily subscribe to Muggle fashions.
They're not supposed to. That's supposed to be a joke of the wizarding world, is that they don't understand how Muggle clothes work. So I do find it weird that everyone is dressed in business casual attire.
70s business casual, though.
Yes.
And it's all like clashing prints. I appreciate the dandyism, but I also just think, where are they sourcing these clothes from? And also, where did Umbridge get that awesome pink knitted creature that she's wearing around her neck?
Her
That's
fashions
cool.
are always very solid in
her,
every movie.
Her nails.
Love a bit of color
Her
blocking.
nails are never out of place.
No, they're always perfectly
Hell
pink and
no.
prim and proper.
I would just say that their fashion sensors are like, they're ahead in magic, but they're behind in fashion.
But do they have their own clothes manufacturing, or do they just get Muggle cast-offs?
Well, what I always
Do
imagined
they
is
shop
that
vintage?
when they were in the ministry, they would just wear robes because they're wizards. And the only time they would wear Muggle clothes is when they had to disguise themselves, like when they were going to the Wizarding World Cup. And in the books, they always describe that when people do that, they wear silly things. So they have the guy wearing a dress. An old man is wearing a dress at the Wizarding World Cup. And Bob Ogden, when he's checking out the gaunts, is wearing a one-piece men's horizontal red and white striped bathing suit and a trench coat. So you have all these wizards not understanding how Muggle clothes work. But ever since the third movie came around, they just decided that, yeah, wizards wear street clothes and it's chill.
Well, I would assume they could get like clothing at Diagon Alley and stuff like that.
Or Goodwill.
Or H&M.
You just lose out on the fun of, like, wizards are supposed to wear robes. Why are they wearing normal people clothes at the office? I guess to make them look more businessy.
They make them like fusty bureaucrats, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like that's the trying to look. They're these kind of like boring government workers, but the look is like of these like really odd like 70s British TV shows where like someone's like a slightly dodgy market trader, like Minder or Only Fools and Horses. It's a really odd visual like set of keynotes.
I guess they're just trying to go for peak stuffiness, and
Yeah.
they're really trying to drive home that the ministry is boring. Everyone here is boring.
Yeah.
So you see in the ministry all of the workers making these pamphlets about Muggles, and this is what I talked to earlier. They look so much like Nazi propaganda, which is terrifying. Another thing that I always thought was terrifying is that they are perfectly square, which I don't like a book that is a square. It feels like that's not correct.
Yeah.
But my new favorite characters in the Harry Potter universe, thanks to their depiction in this movie, is the decoy detonators, the little black guys that
Yeah,
wobble
yes.
around and explode. They look so cute.
And people are fucking terrified of
They
them.
look like adorable bombs.
They're just
Yeah.
like joke box little things. Why is everyone like, oh, I can't be in the same room?
I'm guessing they got that from Fred and George.
Yes, Fred and George made those, and in the book they described that that's exactly where they got them from.
Yeah.
But it's the first time you get to see them in action, which is really cool. So I enjoyed seeing them. Then you have all of Harry, Ron, and Hermione trying to sneak around. They get separated because of Yaxley showing up and Umbridge showing up in the elevator and all this.
Yeah.
But what unfortunately you lose, and I hate that they got rid of this in the movie, is this amazing scene with Arthur Weasley. Arthur is in the elevator with Harry, who's disguised as Albert Runcorn, and he is someone that's very much on the side of these investigations that the ministry is doing to try to get rid of all the muggles and half-bloods and everything. You have the scene where Arthur is saying negative things about Runcorn. Harry obviously doesn't know that he's Harry, but he's upset with the behavior and the treatment that he has shown for these innocent people. And it's just this amazing scene where you get to see how awesome and how wholesome Arthur Weasley is. And I think the movies have still done a good job of seeing that in different parts throughout the series, but I really loved the scene so much in the book, and it broke my heart that it wasn't in the movie. But alas,
we just get sweaty Ron.
we get rained on Ron, but maybe there's some sweat in there too. Then later on, you have the scene where Harry and Hermione end up breaking up Umbridge's interrogation of this innocent woman. And they do this a little differently because in the book, Harry's under the invisibility cloak. He kind of sneaks around and ends up scaring Hermione at one point, which is really funny because he has the cloak on and she doesn't know that he's there, but then she has to act cool. But I did really appreciate that Harry gets to say the amazing line of, "You're lying and you must not tell lies," the ultimate dig to get back at Umbridge, because that's what Umbridge said to Harry.
Yeah.
So they change it, but I don't think it's that different, and you get to see Harry really standing up to Umbridge, which is always a good time. Then the escape is Very different, though. All of the stuff that goes on while they're leaving the ministry is done a little bit differently.
In the book.
In the book, yeah. From how they attack Umbridge and Yaxley to how they get out of there to how they're seen, all this stuff. But one of the biggest things they change is when they're actually leaving. So in the movie, they go over to that fireplace thing, where all of the toilets flush into.
Yes.
And they apparate away. And what happens in the movie is they just go to the forest because Yaxley gets in there with them.
Yeah.
And Hermione is like, oh, we just got to get out of there. In the book, it's this much more complex thing where they're starting to go back to Grimmauld Place, but then once they see it, Yaxley leaves or they throw him out of their apparition so that he gets stuck there, which does prevent them from going back to Grimmauld Place. But then Hermione's able to reroute them to the forest where they end up. So it's a little less complex. Again, it's one of those things that I think just makes things a little more simpler in the movie. So I get it.
So yeah, because they just wake up in the forest already.
Yes.
And she just gives some exposition.
She gives Ron the essence of Dittany because he got splinched.
Yeah.
But the effect of them apparating is weird because you have Yaxley's face melding into their faces and stuff, which I didn't.
It's like the Thing.
Yeah,
It's quite intense.
I didn't particularly need to see that one, and that's not really something that they ever explain happening. I guess it's just the visual effects team being like, "Hey, can we do this, guys? Please, it'll be super fun."
We need to make this links though.
I've got a question about this whole thing. Right, they've run off with the Horcrux. Like, are we meant to think at this point that Voldemort doesn't have any idea about what's going on?
Yes.
But it's like, it sort of establishes, right, he can't feel when a Horcrux is destroyed, right? He has no knowledge of that.
He can't really feel it until, I don't even know if he can feel it at all in the books. In the movies, they kind of make it more of a thing that he can kind of feel it. But yeah, he at this point is completely unaware.
Well, otherwise he'd be onto them. But my question is, like, he must know exactly what happened in the Ministry of Magic. Harry Potter and his mates tipped up. They seemed really, really keen on getting this locket. Oh, I wonder what that locket could be. Like, does he not start to think, like, why would they put themselves at so much risk for something that they're supposed to not know anything about? Like, wouldn't he start to join the dots?
So that is a confusing element of it, because you would think Yaxley would report back to Voldemort and say exactly what happened and mention,
or like any of the like 700 witnesses who were in the room at the time.
So what happens in the book is that before Harry can grab the locket, he stupefies both Yaxley and Umbridge, and then he takes it. So maybe in the book, the way they explain it is that no one else actually saw him take the locket. Everyone else that was chasing after him just saw Harry Potter, who is listed as undesirable number 1.
Right. But Umbridge wakes up at some point, and even if she doesn't, it's like, why were they there? Why were they so interested in Umbridge? They turned up, they stupefied her, and then they went away. Like, he's not a stupid guy. Like, he must be like, well, there must be a reason that they were chasing after Umbridge.
Right.
Maybe it's because of the Horcrux.
But Umbridge doesn't know it's a Horcrux. She just thinks it's a old fancy brooch of sorts from way back when.
Really? I thought she knew this whole time.
She doesn't know it's a Horcrux. She knows that it belongs to the Slytherin family because of the engravement on it, and that's why she takes it off of Mundungus, but I don't think she knows it's a Horcrux, so I guess she wouldn't relay that information. Because Voldemort is still convinced that the real Horcrux is in the cave.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay. So when he sees that locket, it's not like, that's it.
I also don't think Voldemort ever had a one-on-one meeting with Umbridge. She works for the Ministry. She doesn't necessarily work for the Death Eaters.
Yeah.
So there's no way for that to get back.
Right. So as far as he's concerned, that locket is at the bottom of a lake, and no one.
Yeah, the locket is in the fountain
right.
thing inside of the cave that he's set up that no one is strong enough to get through.
You know, the place with the bad drink.
Yes, the bad
shitty
drink
lake with all the dead people.
The bucket of Fireball and Jägermeister.
The vat of tea made in a coffee machine.
That is the most British pull you could ever have.
Helen has been really suffering these last 2 months.
Oh, right, because you've been in America.
Why you got to be so cruel?
But you're in Seattle. You're in the land of coffee.
Yes, fuck it.
There's this great little startup in Seattle. It's this nice local roastery called Starbucks. You should check them out.
Oh, that sounds festive.
Lovely.
What do they have there? Just coffee?
Yeah, I mean, it's just really simple. They just have it's one of those menus where you can, it's like In-N-Out where you can only get one thing. You can only get coffee. It's it.
Okay.
Okay. So my mind is set
Okay,
at ease.
good. We're all on
He
the same
probably
page.
wouldn't have
Harry
figured
Potter.
it. But he would still be like, why the fuck are they turned up at the Ministry of Magic? That's really dangerous. What were they trying to find?
You would think that people would be more confused about why Harry Potter is at the Ministry.
Yeah.
But I guess they could just be like, well, I don't know why. I'll keep an eye on him.
I think just these wizards are not smart. They seem to have like one thought at any time.
One guy was just like, that's Harry Potter. Hey guys, look, it's him.
It does take a beat before the security guards get in on him.
They know he's number one wanted.
Uh-huh.
And most of the people are like, we have to capture this person, but they just move out of the way.
They're so shocked to see him.
Yeah. Don't know what to do. What do I do in this moment? I don't know.
So they're finally out and about in the woods, and this begins the camping saga of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. And one thing that is funny is that you're supposed to believe that the bag that Hermione brought, this bag of infinite holding, she had packed as a emergency just in case, with a couple of changes of clothes for the three of them, as well as some books that they need and stuff like that. But as the movie goes on, Harry and Hermione change clothes about 8 times.
Yeah.
So she's brought so many clothes. And it's not just they're changing
Can wizards
tops.
just change the color of their hoodies or whatever?
Maybe they could.
Because they're not laundering stuff when they're in the tent, are they?
They just get an Amazon Prime deliveries to their tent.
He's the sort of Gryffindor to scrape any oil off their trousers.
I mean, the bag is cool if it was in your life, but the problem with it is it's just a kind of plot shortcut to anything being
Right.
solved.
Well, no, that's not true.
And Hermione always having the answer to get anyone out of anything, pretty much.
I mean, she's obviously got her shit together more than any of the other characters.
I think it's more of, in the book, they're a bit more intentional about what she has brought. She's brought a specific amount of textbooks, clothes, things that they need, etc.
Is it heavy? Does
So
it
I
have
think
mass?
that's what they're trying to get at with the charm that they've put on it, is that it doesn't take up a lot of space, and in theory, it wouldn't weigh a lot. I think that's what's supposed to be the more impressive element. Less of, oh, I can grab anything out of here that I need and it's a catch-all, and more of, look how many fun things I can keep in this bag that doesn't weigh us down and hurt our backs.
Yeah.
Why, if you were making a magic tent, would you put like some steps up to a platformy bit for no real reason?
Yeah, they could get more creative with it. They just have a boring, normal human
Right.
person tent.
Yeah.
Well, a big one, but put in a proper mezzanine if you're going to bother.
Put in a spa and a sauna and everything.
Yeah.
Go all out.
A chandelier.
Give me MTV Cribs of this tent.
Make the bunk look a bit less like a youth hostel. Because you can. You're a fucking wizard. You can make it look like anything.
Have some imagination.
Couldn't get one of the tents from the wizarding thing from Goblet of Fire.
Oh, yeah, that super cool tent that the Weasleys have.
Yeah.
They should. I mean, it was Arthur's. They probably could have taken it. They were at their house for
Yeah.
the wedding. So then we start getting more of these Harry dream scenes where he starts seeing into Voldemort's vision and what Voldemort
Yeah.
is seeing. And the first one that you see here in the camping is Voldemort interrogating Grigorovich, one of the wand makers. And again, you just don't learn who this dude is in the movie.
Yeah.
In the books from Crumb, he explains a little bit more about Deathly Hallows, his wand, all this other stuff. You learn that there's this other wand maker
Besides
in
Ollivander.
Europe besides Ollivander, and it's this guy Grigorovich.
They definitely need more than just those two.
Yes,
For the whole of
100%.
Europe. Definitely.
100%.
I've said it before and I'll say it again.
It's a monopoly and it's unfair.
But
It's the
also, it's
90s.
impractical. If they're in prison, who's doing the wands? Everyone
Exactly.
needs a
Why
wand.
isn't Ollivander
Who's-
like
Oh.
the richest person in the world?
Right.
Because he only charges like 7 galleons a wand. He really should. Supply and demand. He has no competition. Those wands should be $1 million.
Yeah.
I disagree with Helen. I think like wands are probably a bit like glasses, in that like the first time you go to a wand maker, you get all your stuff checked out, you get exactly the right one for you, and then once you've got that, you're like, yeah, my prescription's not going to change much. You just start getting it online. So
but they
there's probably
don't
like
replace their wands.
there's probably like a Wands or Us. Like
I
even
hope
in the
so.
late 90s, you can just like order it, talk about what kind of wood you want, how big you want it to be, and then it arrives in the post 7 days later.
If not, they're really screwed. If the wand makers are out of action.
Or they have like a pawn shop for wands.
Oh.
And like, hey, I need a new wand.
Hmm.
You guys have the best used wands at this location. It's like a Goodwill for wands.
There's so many different options out there. But for now, you've only got 2 people. You got Ollivander and Grigorovich, the whole thing. Hopefully they're good. Hopefully it's not like Wi-Fi where you can only choose from Spectrum or Xfinity, and they're both garbage. I hate it so much. My building only let me pick Spectrum in New York, and I feel like that should be illegal.
Yeah.
I feel like I should be allowed to pick somebody else, but I wasn't allowed to pick anyone else except Spectrum, and they're so bad. Shout out to this episode brought to you by every Wi-Fi provider that isn't Spectrum or Xfinity. So when Harry sees what Voldemort is seeing in Grigorovich's mind, what's very fun is you see Grindelwald stealing the Elder Wand.
Yeah.
And the way he steals the Elder Wand is so funny because he has the wand and he's creeped outside of this little window perch, and then he hops out of the window in such a cute little manner.
Yeah.
He's like, oop. And I think it's so good and cute and silly, and I couldn't help but giggle. The next scene that they have is all of the Snatchers becoming established. It's a very strange way in which they do it, where they decide to make them all punk rockers, where they've all got long wavy hair and leather jackets to show,
They're dressed like Adamant.
Yeah, I thought that.
who's that?
Do you know Adamant? Oh.
Well, because Shubes wasn't born yet, Martin.
No, I was like 5 when Adamant was around.
Google Adamant.
Yeah, look for the song Prince Charming by Adamant. It's an absolute banger.
I'm thinking of a cartoon where it's an ant that's a superhero. That's an actual cartoon superhero thing.
That's cool.
Think about a slightly less like snarly Billy Idol.
Yeah, this is a pretty accurate portrayal.
Yeah.
It's like pre My Chemical Romance vibe.
Yes.
They're very much like, oh, where are you going, love? Where are you off to, love?
Well, you know the main
Sorry.
the main
That's
Snatcher.
a lovely accent. Thank you for that.
Sorry if I offended you.
SCABIOR is played by Nick Moran, who broke out in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels by Guy Ritchie. So he was very much in the, what was that, mate?
People stop
Geezer.
getting shot. Or
I don't know if you can really
let's do a
understand what
line of
these things
coke and
are.
shoot some shit. Oh, brilliant.
SCABIOR is also such a great name.
SCABIOR.
It sounds like a disease, doesn't it?
It really does. It makes me sad that they never referred to him by name in the movie. You're just supposed to know.
SCABIOR, get over here. Pull up your britches.
Oh, SCABIOR, where'd you get those boots from? Very nice.
It's a disservice to the people who haven't read the books to know that character's name is SCABIOR. It's such a good name. We need justice for SCABIOR.
What do you think his first name is? Is SCABIOR first name or surname? Is he
It's like Beyonce.
Barry SCABIOR?
It's just SCABIOR. Like a Brazilian soccer player, he's just one name.
Isn't there like a bass player called Rat Scabies? Who was that the bass player for? Like,
I don't know, Martin. You're the music guy here.
Stranglers or something? I'm gonna
Again,
have to look
before
it up
Shubes
now.
was born.
Yeah, this is all like early 80s punk Shubes.
I still know about things that happened before 1992, Helen.
Name one thing that happened before 1992.
My sister was born.
Oh,
No. One other thing.
You were born.
That's true.
Rat Scabies was the drummer from the band The Damned.
Oh,
Great intel.
So it's nice to see a member of The Damned hunting Harry Potter in this movie.
look, there we go. Maybe that's where JK got the name inspiration.
I think that's a bit of a leap, Martin, about Barry SCABIOR.
Rato SCABIOR.
But anyway, all this talk about SCABIOR, let's say what SCABIOR actually does. They walk through the woods and they see, or they get the sense that someone is there, and it's Hermione, Harry, and Ron, but they've got all the protection charms up, and you see SCABIOR staring at where Hermione is, and then they do this cool camera trick where they pan behind and you see that he can't see anything.
Yeah.
And then eventually they leave. But then what Hermione says after they leave is she goes, "He could smell it, my perfume." Why are you wearing perfume, Hermione?
Right? That's, well, I suppose, because she can fit anything into that bag, so she's just taking every fucking thing.
But you can't take a portable shower, so they probably, if they're camping, they haven't
Right.
washed, and she's trying to cover her stench.
And she's also still trying to impress Ron.
Yes.
I guess that's it.
Right?
Plus, if
But
she still
yeah, I
smelled,
thought bullshit.
like he would still smell the smelliness of her,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the disgusting
Yeah.
smelliness.
I suppose they've got to shame her for doing something feminine seeming.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like wizards should be able to do spells to... There is spells that produce water. There are spells that dry you off. So they should be able to give themselves a shower with their wands. They're wizards.
Yeah.
They're
It shouldn't be that complicated.
Like they just point it up and then water just spouts out of their
Well, you can
wand.
use aguamenti to water yourself down, and then,
There you go.
soapwamenti for all of the soap, and then the drying one.
Well, they could carry soap. That's not the problem. Like, the problem is carrying a fully functional bathroom.
She's got a magic bag that's got this massive several room tent in it,
She's also got
Martin,
a
including
wand.
wooden platform.
She's also magic.
You're wizards. Come on, clean yourself up.
They could have a full-on bathhouse.
That perfume thing was a weird line. It's just like
bullshit.
But they would have been able to smell Ron. You know,
Yeah.
his teenage musk.
He hasn't showered since before Shoobs was born.
What I can't think of a better way to end this portion of talking about Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. So, Helen and Martin, if people want to find you on the internet, where can they find you?
Well, I do an episode by episode, a song by song podcast about Tom Waits' music called Song by Song, songbysongpodcast.com. And I make music at palebirdmusic.com.
We're also on Twitter, as people are. Our names, which are hard to spell, so why did I bring it up? You can find my podcast, The Allusionist. That's Allusionist with an A, not an I, because I do not do magic or the appearance of magic. And also, Answer Me This and Veronica Mars Investigations, recapping every episode of Veronica Mars.
Yeah, all good stuff. What about you, Jonas?
You can find me at Jonasty Draws with a Z at the end on all social medias, including Twitter, Instagram, and I know Shoes hates it, TikTok.
You could say it. It's fine. Have fun having all of your data stolen by Chinese government.
Hey, they won't steal it from me because I'm Asian. And you can also find my podcast at Rough Night Movie Podcast, where we talk about bad movie franchises, and also the Universe According to Rex and Jonas, where we talk about really nerdy shit.
Love that. Well, thank you all so much for joining. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, as they say in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, before they say hi to SCABIOR, Wizard on! If you're all caught up on Potterless and you're sad about it, don't be sad, because the party doesn't stop here. It continues with bonus episodes that are on Patreon. There's hours upon hours of bonus content that you can check out. And I post on social media all of the time. If you just search for Potterless, I will probably show up. So follow me there if you want to continue the magical journey in between episodes. Potterless is created by Mike Schubert. It is hosted by Mike Schubert. It is edited by Mike Schubert. It is produced by Mike Schubert, as well as Vicky Garcia, Aaron Johnson, Jesse Horgan, Klaus Lopu, Marchismo, Samantha Rose, Juan Sanfilio, Rosemary Dodge, Marie Lisa C. Keen, Romina Rivadanier, Audra, Eleanor Curlin, Rossanne Batamana, Nikita Power, Ali Madsen, Amelia Krause, Sarah Nink, Ben Silver, Rachel Guthrie, Zachary Polito, Orchid Grower, Vivian the Owl, Takari Ront, Haley Hastings, Moster, Ingen Oddstarter, Alex Consilver, John Codker, Noel Basile, Emily Tyrell, Liz Bigelow, Brandon Pickens, Sarah Ensign, Claire Spencer, Rory Collier, Gloria Gillum, Veronica Bartova, Lotta Bartova, Noah, Tracy Toya, Colleen, Jennifer Marklew, Frida J. Svensson, Ivor Peterson, Naomi Guglielmo, Summer Rathel, Andrea Kroc, Lynn Walker, Justin Montero, Christine Saunders, Jacob Parrish, Toothless Walnut, Maya Gray, Mark Body, Polly Burge, Neda Atabani, Zena Rosnowski, Harlan Haskins, Noelia, Addie, Nikki Harris, Kine, Amanda Alfred, Alicia McLaren, Kafir Shaltiel, Lindy Plackey, Sarah Shetter, Marta Morrison, Aaron Richter, Eileen Gazesh, Violet Sullivan, Lindsay Towning, Keegan Curran, Miranda Manning, Gail Ann, Mr. Folk, Maya, Kieran, Lily Leader Williams, Wire Warrior 4976, Floor Sake, Siri Scarsford, Georgia, Peter Wyckoff, Skylar Lily, Edel Ryan, Professor Threat, Ellie Hoskov-Chova, Daniel Fulkerson, Lee Leadley, Elizabeth Christofferson, Michael David Yordi, Tiffany Cottrell, Kelly O'Till, Carrie Krempler, Connie Bienkowski, Mary Mathilde, Jennifer Wendt, Jaden Allman, Nedry OS, Will Huser, Samantha Lenz, Kayla M. Simino, Aurora Fruhoff, Emma Clark, Out of Context 69, Marco Cepeda, Hannah Zeters, Courtney Spilker, Victoria McCormick, Marique Rieger, Ashton Gabrielson, Brittany Gutierrez, Phelan, Julie Walton, The Meadows Family, Ginny from the Block, Anna Penalber, Alvarez, Fake Valentine, Brianna Jordan, Jenny, Sarah Saunders, McKenna Tweedy, Mary Joy Moa, Heather, Weekend at Dead Cat Ladies, Javi Guadalupe Trejo III, Darlene Kerr, Brad Harding, Thomas Chavara, Charlotte, Brianna Cusimano, Kevin Stewart, Lori McDonald, Chrissy Tew, Bugaboo, Jarl Sviven, Haley Logan, Emma Ashley Enstrom, Peter McGrath, Sophie Duda, Jack McMahon, Jen and Rose Daub, Nicole Linzer, Callahan and Darris, Kylo the Husky, Leah Reed, Melissa Robb, Jordy Wright, Bella Barlack, Melanie Demi, Bill Gill, Victoria Colca Perry, Joe Radwan, Elizabeth Yu, Britt McLean, Molly Bautista, Becca Spry, Anthony Rees Dignan, Adam Graham, Joseph Torp, Courtney Harris, T Run Money, Madison Kyle, Don't Call Me Nymphadora, G, Sabrina Balsiger, Sophia Loves Pigs, Farzan Jerabot, Melanie DeGrief, David Douglas, Maria, Matt Barger, Steamed Nuggets, and Can't I Potter? Web design by Kelly Beckman, and the music is by Bettina Campamanes. If you want to find us on social media, you can at facebook.com/Potterless, twitter.com/PotterlessPod, instagram.com/PotterlessPodcast, or reddit.com/r/Potterless. For any and all information about the show, you can go to PotterlessPodcast.com. For bonus content, you can go to patreon.com/Potterless. And for merch, you can go to PotterlessPodcast.com/merch. If you want to see us live in Los Angeles, go to multitude.productions/live. If you want to tell someone about the show, whether it's in person or on the internet via a review, that helps a ton. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, as they say in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Wizard on!